Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Think and Grow podcast with your host, Dr. Z.
And Professor P.
Dr. Z, you know I'm darn well super excited because we got an incredible guest on today that I just finished reading his book and I love it. Tell us, who do we got?
We have Marcel Kuhn
In the house.
in the house from Portugal, right?
He's from Switzerland. He's
From
living
Switzerland.
in Portugal right now.
Yeah. So awesome. So Marcel, so set it off. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Marcel Kuhn. I'm from Switzerland, but now just for the book launch that was last week, last Tuesday, I launched my book. I came to Portugal for 10 days, and usually I live in Switzerland. I'm 43 years of age. I'm a surfer, visionary, speaker, author, and coach. And yeah, so this is the cover of my book that you see. It's called Unthinkable Life Teachings from a Soul Surfer. And it took me a journey of 7 years to write this book. And I put a lot of my learnings and stories and the teachings of the ocean and surfing into this book. So yeah, check it out if you want to know more about living the unthinkable life and living more in flow. So that's what I'm all about, exploring the zone outside of the comfort zone, exploring the unthinkable. Yeah, that's me pretty much.
Nice. Wow. I got to tell you this. You're 43. You're kind of in that middle. You know, some people you think of them as this person. They're kind of young, but they have an old soul. I still would put you in that category, Marcel, because you're only 43. And if we think in terms of if you live to be 100, you wouldn't even be halfway. So, yeah, I totally think of you in that light because the wisdom from all that you've experienced that is in this book is incredible. And the way you've written it, and yeah, I would have loved to have been the fly on the wall to see all that. And you tell part of the story of how you had one person helping you and then that you didn't finish with that person. So where do you want to go with that? Let's get rolling here.
So you want to talk about the process of how it happened?
Excuse me. I want you to talk about and go start wherever you want to start, and we'll just try to work our way through. I don't know how far we're going to get because I can talk for hours about this. Is like
So I'm really passionate about this book because it has a lot of heart and soul in it.
Yep.
And so but the book that Zelda holds in her hand is actually not the book that I started out writing, because when I started out, a family member passed away, and I was really disrupted, or being faced with mortality. That was in 2015, and suddenly you see things differently, because you, as a person in the 30s or 20s, you never think about the end, right? You feel just you're going to be 100 and you still have so much years left. And when you're first touched by mortality, suddenly you think about legacy. And I was at the funeral and I asked myself, who would even show up for my funeral? What will the people say about me? What is the legacy I left here? And so I asked myself, why are some people so successful and fulfilled and other people not? And this question at the funeral turned into the title of a book. And I never had the idea of writing a book. And then this title came to me like from the intuition, and it was Achievers: 1,000 Ways to Success and Fulfillment. And I had this idea of finding out why some people are successful and fulfilled and other people not. And I wanted to interview 1,000 people on that across the world. And without having, within 5 minutes, I had the working title, and 10 questions. And I went out there interviewing amazing people. And I was I was always a beginner, in the beginner's mindset. So I didn't have an idea how to interview and what to do exactly, but I just went for it. And interviewed Olympic champions and
Yeah.
like the coach of Steve Jobs, John Matone, and just amazing people that I connected. And and then
Sounds like, sorry to interrupt, but it
yeah.
sounds like once you like settled on that title of Unthinkable, the book started flowing through you.
Yes,
And
yeah. So Unthinkable. I in the process, I was interviewing like 60 people, and then I stopped because I had like material for 5 books. So I
yeah,
stopped because I had like 250,000 words. That's about 5 nonfiction books. So
Wow.
I stopped because there was so much content in that, and I used 6 degrees of separation as a principle for my interviews. So we are all connected through 6 or less contacts,
mm-hmm.
and of course, in if you live in the developing countries and you're really connected, then it's even less. And so out of these 60 people, I only knew 4 previously. So
Wow.
everyone was recommended to me, introduced to me. So it just it was snowballing, and I had like, I don't know, every week I had interviews, and I had so much content. And over the years, I realized that actually those people are all extraordinary. They are amazing,
Yeah.
just like me.
Mm,
And I learned that I have a own voice, I have my own wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was my journey from going to chasing success and putting people on pedestals to realizing that I have the voice, I have extraordinary things to give,
Yeah.
and that I have a voice and a story to tell. And actually, in the beginning, the book was about everyone else, and me, I was just collecting that. And
Yep.
then I realized that the book is only meaningful if I put myself into it. So
Right.
this is the book you have in the hand. Yeah.
awesome. Well, I love the preface
The preface.
preface from your friend Ollie. And, I like this quote. He says, "Full disclosure, I never surfed. However, I have a newfound respect and fascination for the art form. And I'd love for you to talk about surfing being an art." But it says, "Surfing is more than a sport, it's a way of life, requires a deep understanding of the forces of nature, a willingness to embrace the unknown, and a fierce determination to ride the waves no matter how rough they may be." And so that's just so, like, it's all in there, you
Yeah.
know? But
Yeah.
talk about the art form. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So this is a really deep question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me settle into this. I feel surfing. So this book is not really about surfing. It's about the lessons that surfing teaches for life. And for me, yeah, the surfing is an art form because it's like the waves are the canvas, and it's such an amazing way of living, because you move on something that is already moving, and it is ever changing. So every wave is different. There will never be 2 waves that look alike. So it's like in life, it always changes, right? You can miss opportunity in life, and you can prepare yourself for the same opportunity, but it will never happen again. It will be different.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, surfing is really about being totally present at all times, and just surrendering to something greater, like the ocean is something greater that you're connected with. And yeah, there is no time to think, so you have to be in the heart. There is it you have to drop from the mind to the heart. It's not, you cannot analyze this. Of course the pros, they analyze it, but it's so ever changing. So it's really it forces you to be present, to be patient, and to
Mm,
find the right balance between wading and paddling for the wave. And so it's really talks about life that way.
nice. I got something here. So we were talking before we jumped and started recording about, and we were showing you how I'm a huge highlighter guy, right? And man, there's so much highlight. Zelda's like, dude, you really highlighted a lot of stuff in there. But this is actually, I think this is something that you highlighted, and you say divinely, um, as I said here, let me tell the whole thing here. As I sat alone with my unpublished manuscript, I realized that book wasn't the book I was meant to bring forth to the world just yet. Divinely, the entire experience threw me into uncharted water, sending me on a journey to self love, self belief, and self mastery. I was looking through the lenses of the extraordinary lives of others. Expand how that all came about. How did you make that realization, and how did you, was like that an epiphany to where it really helped you to move forward with the book?
Yeah, so so I read this book so many times, but it's um, yeah, I don't know how to how to answer that just now. Can you elaborate more? What
Well, I was going to say too, like the self love. You know,
no, the
you were
self love.
about all of these extraordinary people, and then how does that become turn the spotlight on yourself? You know, how did this occur?
Okay.
So on my end, what I'm thinking is, oh boy, we're gonna confuse you here, but how did you reflect on the fact that I need to focus on self-love, self-belief, self-mastery? How did that come to you that you need to focus on these attributes that are clearly strongly within you,
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
right?
Yes. So yeah, I was always in the space of not feeling good enough for
Mm-hmm.
a lot of my time, and I was always trying to deliver, to be seen, to be of value, to be of service. And when you have this lack mentality inside, you can serve as much as you want, but because you only receive what you give yourself. That was my epiphany. Actually, it was in 2020 in September that I realized I'm enough. And it's sometimes we are it's just a mismatch. We are in the wrong situation. And in so the reason why I had to rewrite my book is because my the person who helped me at that time, Ross G. Kelly, he actually was diagnosed with stage 4 brain tumor.
Yeah.
And just when I heard of it from him, he told me that he has to go through surgery. And he has been a really important friend for me. For 1 year, we worked together every week, and suddenly we were just 3 months out of publishing. and
Mm-hmm.
and when he passed, it was really difficult, because when you work with someone on a book, it's a collaboration. And
Yeah.
when he passed on, I didn't have my sparring partner anymore. So everything that the book was didn't make any sense. And then
Mm,
I really focused on myself, on self-love, and
Yeah.
realizing who I am and what I bring to the world and to the table. Yeah, so I think that statement that you read came out of this epiphany of that I'm good enough as I am. And actually, being good enough is not it's a state, it's a feeling, it's a state. It doesn't have to do with what you perform. So self-love is unconditional.
mm,
And I think I'm raised in a society where it's man, or there is a lot of conditional love. And if
Yeah.
and also like condition to myself. I thought, if that was the assumption of when I started the book, is when I reach that point, then I will be good enough. And then when I was there, I thought, oh no, I still don't feel good enough. So when I have that job and I have the house, then I will be good. And as long as you are in this equation of if then, you always
mm,
lose. You always
yeah.
lose. 10 million won't be enough, 100 million won't be enough. Never,
Yeah.
you will never achieve that, because it's a state of mind, a state of being.
Well,
Yeah.
and it's interesting, because then to continue with this quote from Ollie, so he says it requires a unique balance of control and surrender. He said we must learn to read the waves, or you said to feel the waves, anticipate the movements, and position ourselves for the ride. But at the same time, we must also let go and trust in the mighty power of the ocean. And so when you were talking about the self love, it's almost like you need to have the self love, right, in order to let go. The
Yes.
control usually comes from trying to be to make it fit, right, to make something fit.
Yes.
But to let go, yeah, so talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think um, control control is only an illusion, right? In our
Yeah.
society, many people feel that they have control, so they have the pension, they have their job, their safe job, and all that. But it's all illusion.
Yeah.
COVID COVID showed us really powerfully that suddenly nothing was granted anymore. So
Right.
so
Yep.
if you feel you have the control, that's an illusion. And
Mm.
actually being in the awareness like I am, that I don't have control over what will happen. I cannot control the wave. I
Mm,
can, there is a really cool a really cool quote that from Kabat-Zinn, John Kabat-Zinn. He said it was about mindfulness, and he said, you cannot stop the waves, but you can learn how to surf. So I
Right.
mm,
think the only power we have is the power within us.
yeah.
So that's connected to self love and self mastery, what you mentioned before. So we can only control how we respond to a situation,
Right.
and if you are in your personal power, you stay calm when around us there is confusion, right?
Mm,
So in the eye of the storm, it's calm, nothing moves in the eye of the storm, and that's how I want to be. So it's if peace of mind is peace within. So if
yeah.
you're angry inside, you will drive in the car and you will flick off your finger and you will cuss. But if you are calm and self-loving, then you're totally relaxed, and that's the state I am in now.
Yeah.
Totally detached. I have no expectations towards other people, my kids or whoever. I don't have any expectations. And when you detach totally, nothing owes you. When you
Mm,
detach from materials, when you detach from experiences, then nothing owes you. And I think that's what Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about:
yeah.
being no one, being no thing, being nowhere, being in no time. that
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's that's like going from particle to wave energy,
Right.
as if I may paraphrase it like that.
Yeah.
Sure. It's funny because you mentioned the eye of the storm. All three of us are coaches, right? We've got Zelda and I, we have our specialties. You've got yours. I'm wondering how this analogy relates to you. I see this with everybody, and I just stumbled across this on my own. You said the eye of the storm, Marcel. I like to say you're in the eye of the hurricane, people. And the problem is, crap is flying around you, and you're like, holy crap, my head is spinning. And what most people don't understand, we were talking to an attorney not too long ago about something like this. And I said to that person, look, the problem is you can be the expert, but you can't solve your own problem in that situation because you're emotionally tied to it and you can't see what's right in front of you. What do you think
Mhm.
about that? Does that make a lot of sense to you?
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Yes, my for me, I always my mindset is always to be detached, and it's not always easy. I get angry too. My I have three boys, so they know my triggers, and whenever I see that I get triggered, I know I have to do some deeper work. I don't know if I got your question right, but yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, the sense of detachment and attachment. And it's funny because you said here the ancient Chinese Tao, I know you mentioned that, asks us to live as water, and
Yes.
water is content, free to flow with no agenda. Water just is, its intention is neutral. And so I was thinking, when you're running a business, though, because you're running your own business now,
Yes.
right? And so you still have to kind of do the hustle, right? Go out there and meeting people and telling them, so how do you balance the two? Because I think that's a dance also.
Yeah. That's exactly the dance. Actually, there is no flow without structure. right? The riverbed needs the river needs a riverbed to
Mm,
flow. So
okay.
so there is a balance between the two.
Okay.
But I find hustling is pushing, and that's the opposite of flow. So I'm not a big fan of hustle. And I know
Mm-hmm.
in the US you have a big hustle culture. I'm not a big fan of that, because
Okay.
when I'm in stillness and when I'm in my flow, that's when I produce exponential stuff.
Mm.
Mm.
And when I push and when I chase everything away. And and um, so so um, sometimes when you're in flow, you create some things in 5 minutes that usually take hours or weeks.
Yeah.
So that's when you're not performing on a linear level, but on an exponential level. So I
Mm.
think that's what flow is about, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Let me jump in here because I want to stay focused on the book here. And
That was from the book.
can we oh, okay. No, I'm talking about what I said. What I think what you said about in terms of detachment. So I think your take on it, you're seeing it from the personal side, is that if you can detach and pull yourself out of it, which most people can't, and you can be the observer. And I think that's because you've done all of this work. You have the ability to do that. The average person, they don't have the ability to do that, right? So that's really what's required, is to be able, and that's why the coaching is so powerful, because a lot of times when people come to us, they're in that eye of the storm and they can't see what's right in front of them because their emotions are tied to it in that way. But in your case, you've done so much, work, self work on yourself, that you can see it from a different direction. But what I wanted to say is, we're burning through time here so quick. Tell us about the book, the 4 parts, and then we'll try to blast through some of this. I don't know if we'll get through all of it because, man, it's a not a long book, but there's a lot in there. So
Very dense, weighty.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So the book is really about surrendering, right? And each part is mentioned surrender.
Mm-hmm.
And the book is built up around the acronym SURF, SURF, and S stands for surrender, U for unthinkable, R reality, and F flow. So it's surrender to an unthinkable reality through flow. That's kind of the logic. And
Mm.
it's a journey from going from being stuck in the thinkable life, which I describe as the life that we feel we have to live from because society teaches us. And not even like, who is society, like just what we the expectations we have for ourselves or family or colleagues or career. We think we need to live a certain way. We have to have a career, family, house, and all
Yeah.
that. And that's what I call the thinkable life, which is thinkable for me is linear, like boxed in. That's the
Right.
thinkable life. And my journey. This book is about my personal journey, going from that thinkable life, being caught inside, to moving into flow, and being fulfilled, and yeah, and riding the flow of life. That's the short arc of the book, and we can go as deep as you want, because it has been 7 years. So
Yeah, I like this part here. It says when you're in the water, there's a spiritual connection that takes hold, causing you to lose yourself and become one with nature. That feeling of connectedness creates an addiction. And it's so funny that you call this addiction. Um, because I'm a medical examiner, and so I we have like this heroin addiction, and it makes me they talk about how with the heroin you get that sense of connection and
mm.
even of love. And so talk about that that surf in terms of the addiction and the pull to that connection.
Yeah, for me, when I'm surfing, when I'm in the ocean, you're connected to the whole body of water. You're like a drop in the ocean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and the ocean is actually within you, right? Because you get tumbled around, water comes into you, and so you are actually every drop of the ocean has the ocean inside, right? So you're part of it. You're part of something greater. So
Yeah.
that feels like connection to something big, and you're connected to the whole body of water.
Mm.
So yeah, you're a part of it. So that's kind of the spiritual connection I talk about. Be part of something greater. And you feel on one side, there is the full spectrum. So on one side, you feel really powerful. You feel, you sometimes you feel like you have it under control. You know, it has to do with skills, how you handle your board and all that. And in the next second, the ocean shows you that how small you are.
Yeah.
So surrender is about, giving in, not giving up. So it's about surrendering to the waves,
Hmm.
and not fight the waves, because when you fight the wave you will lose, right? The ocean is much stronger than you. You know, the waves, they will always show you who is boss. For me it's kind of a conversation with the ocean. Okay, I got it, you're the boss. I think the ocean, when you're arrogant, then the ocean shows you the place that you belong. But it's a lot of movement. It's like a dialogue, a conversation, like a relationship.
Yeah. That's nice.
You will get it handed to you.
It will put you in your place.
Yes.
And addiction, that you ask. Yeah, it's just this moment that like you explained before we started recording, when you caught a wave. This
Mm.
2 seconds, it feels like the time slows down,
Yeah.
and you will remember these 2 seconds for the rest of your life. And it changes, and like nothing amazing happened. You just ride a wave, and that's so simple and so amazing.
Yeah.
Because when you feel that, you paddle, and then suddenly the wave pushes you, and you move on something that is moving. It's such an amazing feeling. So I still remember some waves so vividly in my mind, and they
Wow.
were 12 years ago. It's so, the time slows down, and it's so massive. So surfing is not about, it's not quantitative. You don't count the waves, because every time you catch a wave, you only focus on that one wave, and you just want to get that,
Hmm.
right? And if you don't get it, there will be next ones. But there is a balance between waiting for the wave and paddling. So it's yeah. There is so many levels in surfing that I can I that explain life, that I can go on for hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, one thing we talked about when we initially spoke, and I had mentioned it, was how I said to you, and I think there's some lost in translation here because English is not your first language. I think some of the things may get lost a little bit. But remember when we talked about how it energized you? I said, oh, so like when you're completely drained, it's like I got to go stoke some waves because I'm feeling really drained right now, and that will recharge me. Talk about how that when you got that opportunity to come to Southern California when you were a teenager on an exchange deal, how you're like, oh my God, I was drawn to this. What's this surfing stuff? And you got there and you're like, wow, I totally nailed that because I love it.
Yeah, actually, when I started, so the reason why I wanted to start surfing was I was watching the movie Point Break of
Yeah.
Patrick Swayze, in Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
And I watched that one year before going to California, and I watched that and thought, wow, that looks so cool. I want to do that. And I didn't want to rob banks. So I
Yeah.
just want to go surfing. And when I had the chance to go there, it was just clear for me, and I went surfing. And the first day I tried surfing, I didn't catch any waves, but I was hooked, just being in the ocean and just
Yeah.
paddling around. And so from that was in 97. And since then it was always something I'm really passionate about. And this book, the title doesn't say, life teachings from a pro surfer. It's a
Yeah.
soul surfer. So I'm not saying that I'm a good surfer. I'm just passionate about.
Surfing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So talk about that feeling about how you're like, man, I feel like, so for example, we talked a little bit. You're Swiss. You speak German. There's a German background there. I was telling you a little bit about how I love to, uh, you know, really get fluent in this language. It's been difficult, but working at it for a really long time. But one thing that was really cool was we've been to Germany now 3 times, and my family is almost it's a high dose of German heritage in there, right? And when we went to Germany, I'm like, oh, I totally get the way I am. I would totally was like, I could go live there and fit right in because I felt the culture within me from
Mhm.
all of these decades of, all of these ancestral people behind me, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So what was that? Can you like energizing and the water and
Yeah.
talk about
So I guess what you're going at is like a feeling of coming home,
that?
right?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was surfing for me. Now I understand what you're saying, and yeah. So yeah, for me it's really energizing, and it's like coming home. I've always been drawn to water my all my life. I
Mm,
was always drawn to cold water. I
mhm.
do this like they call it now Wim Hof method. I just call it cold water because I've done it like since I'm a child, and yeah. So I was always drawn to water. This is my element, and surfing is like coming home for me. So it's like a hard connection to the ocean. So it,
Yeah. We call that the polar bear plunge up here in the Midwest.
No, so I wanted to know because you did talk about on the surfboard, you're moving on something that's moving, and then you saying though you can feel it, it's dynamic. And then talk about versus skiing because obviously in Switzerland you've skied and cross country downhill. How is that different than surfing though?
Yes, so skiing, you move on something that is static, right? The mountain doesn't move
Yeah.
unless you have avalanche.
Yeah.
And I've never done that. That's very unsafe to do that. So it's for me, skiing is amazing. I've done it for over 30 years, probably 38 years.
Yeah.
And recently, I just go snowboarding, and I think when there is powder snow, the feeling of snowboarding is like surfing.
Okay.
But the surfing is you are not attached to the board in the
Mhm.
like normally you're not attached to the board. You just have a leash, but you it feels much freer than skiing or snowboarding, because in snowboarding, skiing, you have boots and you have all this gear, a jacket, helmet, and all that. And in
Yeah.
surfing, you just have a wetsuit or trunks, and you are just free, and it's just really really easygoing and relaxed.
Yeah, yeah, you really can feel the water.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
What you got like 20 questions there. Keep
Oh,
going.
okay. All right. Yeah, so let me see. Where was my next question? So you talked about living the key to living fulfilled, life that is rich and life that gives you wealth through joy and your why. So talk about that, about being fulfilled.
Yeah, so being fulfilled is a state, right? A state of mind. So it doesn't have to do with what you get.
Yeah.
So it's a choice of being fulfilled now, and setting up your environment in a way that my friends from the Flow Consciousness Institute, they talk about the conditions to thrive. So set up the conditions to thrive, that are unique to you, that make you feel good. So in my case, I set up the book lounge like that I could be in a space where I have freedom, I have some structure, I'm around my element. So yeah, so that's when I feel fulfilled. So I'm living my dream. I'm by nowhere near where I want to be professionally. I'm
Mm,
nowhere near being financially sustainable with my coaching yet. And
mm,
I just started a year ago with this my own business, and before I was doing corporate coaching for 16 years.
Mhm.
But I'm living my dream now. It's not I haven't achieved where I want to be financially, but I
Mhm.
have achieved of being happy with how I'm living. And
Nice.
Yeah.
no amount of money can buy that. So you can be a
Right.
billionaire and not feel this level of fulfillment that I feel at not being a billionaire and at my level. So this is the focus on joy and fulfillment instead of on financials. And I think when you are fulfilled, the the financial success will automatically come as a side product.
Right.
So that's the opposite of hustle culture.
Right.
Yeah.
Do the
Yeah.
love and the money will follow, right?
Yes, yes. So it's more
So,
about service.
yes, we love to give our listeners lots of doses of take us to that point where you're like, I'm going for it, right? You talked about thriving. You realize, hey, I'm in this corporate culture. I don't like it. It's really some people it burns out. Dr. Z was getting burnt out, and
Yeah.
money's not everything, and all that kind of stuff. And you 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 figured out fulfillment, and hey, this is where I need to go in order to thrive. So, give us an idea of what the how difficult that was, or wherever you want to go with it, and say, man, it was really touch and go there for a while, but I knew I was doing the right thing because I was just spinning wheels where I was at.
Yeah. So I was doing. So I was in the similar field for 16 years,
Right.
and I wasn't fulfilled. So I knew I have the safety of doing the same thing until I'm 65 and retired and get a good pension and all that. And that was just not what excited me.
Yeah.
And I was just in the middle of the divorce, and it's probably the most stupid moment to jump out of corporate because
Yeah.
it totally disrupted. But I just disrupted like everything, like the house and how I lived and all that at once. So it was total disruption, and
Yeah.
it was so scary. I remember sitting in the office, and I had on that day, I knew the night before I decided I'm going to do it, I'm going to jump, and I was so scared. And I had a conversation with my boss at 11, and the whole morning I was so nervous. I just my it was everything I was going through. I was so scared of what will happen. How will I be able to live my life and support my kids and all that? And
Hmm.
at 11 I had to talk to my boss, and I talked about the projects and everything. And 5 minutes until the end I was like, okay, I have to tell him now. And then I told him, and
Hmm.
actually all the fears that we have, nothing happens. It's just
Yeah.
life just continues, and nothing that we fear happens, because fear is only in the mind. So whatever we fear of will not happen. And I thought back and at some point when I thought, oh, I could have stayed in the job and just keep doing the book on the side.
Yeah.
But the mindset is so different of being employee to being entrepreneur, or being doing your own thing. So the mindset is different. And I can have this freedom now because I have space to create and to do stuff, even though I'm not. It would have been really easy to stay in this job and get the money and be safe and stable. Like I have sleepless night because I sometimes I'm in panic how to do it and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was my experience of the jump. And and all it takes is a few seconds of courage to jump.
Yeah.
And you don't have to think about the landing, because the landing gravity helps you with that. That's all. It's all done for you.
Right. So then what happened? You took the jump.
Gravity. So
Then
you
what?
Yeah,
took the.
I quit the job, took the jump, and then I, yeah, since then I build my speaking coaching, and I finished my book.
Hmm.
And yes, and now this time gave me a lot of space now, and I built up my connections. And it seems like the book was like in the cocoon and had to finish until I can get out and share. And now I'm in a space after a time where I was more internal. I can be out there and talk about it. So that's really really cool right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like you were the butterfly in the cocoon, and all of a sudden, once you jumped and told your boss and made that decision, whoop, you came flying out of that cocoon and out this beautiful butterfly is spreading its wings, and even though there's probably tons of ups and downs in this last year or so, you're like looking back and saying, you know what, I'm so glad I did that, because I wouldn't change it for anything in the world, right?
Yes, and it's interesting when you're doing the unthinkable, you're actually, and that's personal, that's different for everyone. But then when you're your true self, when you're following your purpose, you are not replaceable. But when you're just doing a corporate job, you're just replaceable. And
Yeah.
my job for months, they didn't replace me. So how much how much value is do you get from your work if you are not even replaced, and then they changed and they did reorganization, and then it was a different job. So if you are not following your purpose, you are just replaceable. You can be replaced the next day, or they say, oh, we don't need this role anymore. So it's and I didn't want to be like living the life in something that I'm so replaceable.
Right, right, right. It's like, did I even matter?
Yes,
In
exactly.
the end, you're like, I don't think I even mattered so much. But now I matter, because you wrote the book, you're doing the coaching, you've got all your stuff going on, you got all these poles in the water. I'm like, this guy is shaking and moving.
Yeah, I was just, if you could talk a little bit just about the death. You said death or even just grief. Because sometimes, there's two sides to the grief. You said you can get swallowed up by grief and the drowning in the sadness. Um, but then there's also an opening up, right? And you think about the growing pain. Like you said, from the butterfly to emerge, there's pain with that.
Hmm.
And creating the new identity, it's painful. You have to grieve the old identity. So, talk about that transition for you.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, in the beginning, it was a shock, but I'm really good at I thrive on chaos. So
Mm,
I'm really good at moving through these phases. I think it's called Kubler-Ross, like the
Yeah,
grief
stages
stages.
of grief.
And
Yeah.
I'm really good at I've been in this field of change management and in leading change for a long time, right? My whole career was in that. So I think I could like detach myself from me and observe myself from outside. And
Mm,
that was the original book, was to help the family to see that there is always a bright side, right? The Hawaiians say, when there is rain, look for the rainbows, or
mm,
when the night is dark, look for the stars.
start.
So that was the original mission. And then I realized this was only this tragic happening was like it awakened me to write the book, because actually I had this question all my life. I was thinking about success and fulfillment all my life. And I actually rediscovered when I was 18 and coming home from California. I wrote a paper about the culture of surfing, and I did
Mm,
mm.
interviews. And I wrote that for me, surfing is the unification of body and soul. I was writing that at 18. And
Wow.
wow.
so for me, like now 43, and I will be 44 soon. So many years later, I pick up on that, and it's like full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm really good at going. It's not that I don't have feelings and that I don't care about people, but it's
Yeah.
always a choice. If you have a choice, you want to be the victim or you want to be a leader, and
Mm,
you can be mourning for the rest of the life, and that's good. But there is a life after this, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think the loved ones that passed, they wouldn't want us to be sad for the rest of our lives.
Mm,
Yeah.
Because if we are in this shock freeze and we don't continue our life, it's like we die too, and that's very
Right.
sad.
Wow, where did the time go? What would you like to leave the viewers and the listeners with? You've got, if you could just couple minutes, like just a few minutes to lay some incredible wisdom on somebody. I love it when we travel because I know that I'm never going to see and speak to these people again. So I try to make an impact. With that said, what can you say to the people listening out there that they can really, even if they never read the book, they'll be like, man, I'm glad I listened to that podcast all the way to the end because that was incredible.
Yeah, I don't know. My biggest insight was that, that self-love is so important. So the relationship to yourself, self-love and self-care is the foundation for any relationship. And all the interactions it's all about relationship. So when we talk about personal and business, there is actually only personal, right? The relationships are always built on personal.
Yeah.
And if you don't if every change has to start from within. So no change can happen in an organization if you don't change on an individual basis. So I think, and that has to do with the relationship with yourself, right? So that's what I think is really important. And then I just want to dare you to do the unthinkable and to go out there and jump into the unknown, right? Because it's always comfortable to stay in the past, in the known. Even if you're in an emotional abusive relationship, it's more comfortable to stay in the known and the painful than just jumping out and just go for it. Doing the unthinkable. It's something else for you, Patrick, for you, Zelda, for me, for everyone is something else. Doing the unthinkable is not about the grand things. It's about what is your excitement. Follow your excitement. Follow the heart. Drop from your mind into your heart, and be a real human.
That's why I love your book so much because Marcel, check, check, check. Dr. Z and I have been living outside of our comfort zone almost since we met. So you challenge me. I'm like, which challenge you want to hear about? Because we've had a whole bunch of them. Dr. Z, any final reflections?
Yeah, I loved this interview. I loved meeting you. I loved reading the book. And like I said, I'm going to be studying this book. Like, we highlighted all this, and then I go back and I like read that and I go,
Yeah, that's good.
Makes you think. Think and feel, right?
Yeah.
Think and feel.
Yeah, and I think we accomplished a whole lot here because I think several times we got you to right?
Awesome.
All right, there you have it, everybody. And as always, thank you in advance.
Thank you so much for having me.
Just thinking and growing and learning and knowing and thinking and growing and learning and knowing, yeah. Just thinking and growing and learning and knowing and thinking and growing and learning and knowing, yeah. Yeah, we're thinking and growing and learning and knowing and thinking and growing and learning and knowing, yeah. We're thinking and growing and learning and knowing and thinking and growing and learning and knowing, yeah. We're thinking and growing